Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Christ the royal master leads against the foe, forward into battle, see his banners go. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Oh, for a faith that will not shrink, though pressed by every foe, that will not tremble on the brink of any earthly woe, that will not murmur or complain beneath a chastening rod, but in the hour of grief or pain will lean upon its God. A faith that shines more bright and clear when tempests rage without, that when in danger knows no fear, in darkness feels no doubt. Lord, give us such a faith as this, and then whatever may come, we'll taste and hear the hallowed bliss of an eternal home. A charge to keep I have, a God to glorify, a never-dying soul to save, and fitted for the sky, to serve the present age, my calling to fulfill. Oh, may it all my powers engage to do my Master's will. Arm me with jealous care, as in thy sight to live, and O thy servant, Lord, prepare a strict account to give. Help me to watch and pray, and on thyself rely. Assured if I my trust betray, I shall forever die. Rise up, O men of God, have done with lesser things. Give heart and mind and soul and strength to serve the King of Kings. Rise up, O men of God, his kingdom tarries long. Bring in the day of brotherhood and end the night of wrong. Rise up, O men of God, the church for you doth wait. Her strength unequal to her task, rise up and make her great. Lift high the cross of Christ, tread where his feet have trod. As brothers of the Son of Man, rise up, O men of God.
Good evening. Let's edify one another this evening, shall we? Thanks for being with me. CJ made the comment the other day that it seems like there's an awful lot of dying going on. That was when we heard about our sister Tanya Warwick passing from this life. And evening, Reba. It's a part of life that we end up losing those that we love. Of course, yesterday, a member of our congregation posted on his Facebook about his mother being transferred to hospice. Now, I went to services with his mother for a good portion, well, a good 5 years, I suppose, 4 or 5 years. So I knew her. Evening, Carol. Good evening, Teresa. And yeah, because I think we started worshiping there in 93 or 94. And I didn't move up to Minnesota till 99. So there was a brief time when I was down in Minnesota, down in Missouri, but there was a year when I was down there that I didn't worship there at Madrid. But anyway, um, hello. No, I can't hear you, CJ. If you're asking, I just saw that you rejoined. I don't even know if I can hear Alicia, so doesn't sound like I can. Maybe I need to restart. How's my audio? No, I can't hear you, Alicia. The only reason I know that you're doing anything is because I can hear you from the office. Hmm. Looks like Evie Mux is at it again. They did just have an update, so of course that's going to mess with things. Hang on a minute. I can hear you now. How about Alicia? Yeah, I can hear you now. And I mean, I've got a lot of memories of Ramona. I mean, the main memory is, of course, looking up and watching her and her husband Homer walk down the street a couple of blocks to the building. Thank you, Carol. Um, so it's the biggest memory I have is of their dedication to being there at every service, always ready with a quick laugh. They seemed so old at that point in time. Even then, I mean, they were not spring chickens. They were retired even then. or it seemed that way. I thought they were retired anyway. And then for them to be Homer's uh, brother, I think, is still around. Maybe Bill. I think he's got to be up in his 90s. But it is, like I said, a part of life. The old song that Roger Whittaker used to sing, you know, talks about the last farewell, and I think it's that one anyway. And basically, it's the moment that you are born is the moment you start to die. The moment they start the overture is, the moment they begin to end the show. And the moment we said hello began our last farewell. And it's really true. One of the things that we here on the farm are very acquainted with is the cycle of life. And that doesn't mean that it hurts any less. It just means that we are very familiar with it. And I know that at some point in the next couple of weeks, there will be a funeral in which I will be attending. More tears being shed. I am going to a city where the streets are with gold are laid, where the tree of life is blooming, and the roses never fade. Here they bloom but for a season, soon their beauty is decayed. I am going to a city where the roses never fade. In this world we have our troubles, Satan's snares we must evade. We'll be free from all temptations, where the roses never fade. Here they bloom but for a season, soon their beauty is decayed. I am going to a city where the roses never fade. Saved ones gone to be with Jesus in their robes of night array. Now are waiting for my coming, where the roses never fade. Here they bloom but for a season, soon their beauty is decayed. I am going to a city where the roses never fade. There's so much. Yes, Sister Carol, you're right. Knowing that they have been healed permanently. They're no longer succumbing to the sick of this world. Helps tremendously. But the tears are not necessarily for the fact that they are in heaven, or even at the fact that they've passed. The tears are for all the wonderful times that we've had. I haven't seen Ramona in years, but I still remember her laugh. I sing that song, and I remember the first time I heard it was at a funeral parlor for the funeral for Brother Nolan Anderson, a kind, gentle man, a preacher at the same congregation that Ramona used to attend. And then his wife. And I don't remember now how many of the old folks from that congregation have passed, several of which I've been able to attend their funerals. But every time I sing that one, I remember. And I remember our sister Sue, Sister Sue Ross. And I heard for all those who've lost loved, like Sister Love, so many. You brought me some cucumbers? Thank you. Careful. That's a lot of salt. Too much salt on one spot. And Sister Carissa, Ramona happens to be a sister in Christ from a congregation that I used to attend back in the 90s, Sister Carol. She has been placed on hospice, given about 2 weeks to live. Beyond this land of parting, losing and leaving, far beyond the losses darkening this, and far beyond the taking and the bereaving, lies the summer land of bliss. Land beyond, so fair and bright, land beyond, where is no night. Summer land, God is its light. Oh, happy summer land of bliss. Beyond this land of toiling, sowing, and reaping, far beyond the shadows darkening this, and far beyond the sighing, mourning, and weeping, lies the summer land of bliss. Land beyond, so fair and bright. Land beyond, where is no night. Summer land, God is its light. Oh, happy summer land of bliss. Beyond this land of waiting, seeking, and sighing, far beyond the sorrows darkening this, and far beyond the pain and sickness and dying, lies a summer land of bliss. Land beyond, so fair and bright. Land beyond, where is no night. Summer land, God is its light. Oh, happy summer land of bliss. What's your question, Sister Anna? I might have an answer. And CJ, I'm sorry for you to hear about the loss of another member as well. She already did. She carried the basket full of it back to our bedroom. Must be a good question. She's really typing. I'm eager to see this one. That is a question that has been a topic for quite a bit of debate. Um, huh? Yes. The way there's the reason that it's so controversial is for this fact. At what point does a an elder see or does a elder's child cease to be his child? And the other thing is if a an elder's child leaves home, or at what point does an elder cease to be responsible for the child? So then there's the third question that really pops up is since it says children, is a man qualified to be an elder if he only has one child? Um, in regards to the third one, I think that's quibbling. There's one camp that believes that if an elder does not have multiple children, he cannot he's not really qualified to be an elder because there is no interpersonal dispute that happens that teaches an elder how to settle interpersonal disputes um, that will arise within the church, which basically, is kind of the basis for having believing children or having children. Um, because Paul states that to a degree, if he's not able to control his home, how is he able, what would make him, how would he be able to control the church? Um, okay, I'm live. Why would you try to call me? Love? Hold on. Hold on. We'll see if mom can figure out what you need. Anyway, there, okay. Um, there is a point at which a child must stand on their own 2 feet. And the parent is not responsible for their actions. The general consensus, even though it's controversial, I guess we would say that the general consensus of the matter is that um, the I know we're not a republic in the church. We're a theocracy, or a kingdom, a monarchy. Um, but the majority of people that have studied the matter believe that the child must have been believing while under the elder's rule. Once a child leaves home, therefore shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall cleave unto his wife. Once they leave home, they're no longer under the authority of the elder. And this would definitely be true if they are no longer a part of the congregation at which um, the elder has authority over. For example, they move to a totally different town and are a part of a different congregation. The reasoning behind that is because of the idea of ruling his own house. In First Timothy chapter 3, First Timothy chapter 3, the in First Timothy chapter 3, the stipulation for believing children is not there. The stipulation for, oh, by the way, you're gonna have to switch from there we are. Never mind. Oh, how did we get so messed up? CJ, can you? Is that just on my end? I bet you that's just on my end. Never mind. I don't know why mine is so messed up. I really don't. But the Bible on my end is also like cut off from the word true. Everything over from everything to the right of the word true is cut off. So I'm going to read from my Bible, and hopefully, you all can see what is there. This is a true saying: if a man desire the office of a bishop, he desireth a good work. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, apt to teach, not given to wine, no striker, not greedy of filthy lucre, but patient, not a brawler, not covetous, one that ruleth well his own house, having his children in subjection with all gravity. For if a man know not how to rule his own house, how shall he take care of the church of God? Not a novice, lest being lifted up with pride he fall into condemnation of the devil. Moreover, he must have a good report of them which are without, lest he fall into reproach and the snare of the devil. Yeah, we went to verse 7. So the stipulation here is that the elder must rule his own house. And you did something, man. You did something. I had it adjusted in my where my face was just right, but then you moved it, and so then I had to readjust my camera. Anyway, that's all right. So The stipulation here is that in regards to the home, he must be a blameless man. He must be the husband of one wife. He cannot have more than one wife, as in a polygamist, and that he must rule well his own house, having his children in subjection. We once, in one congregation that I was at, they were considering elders, and one of the men that was um, up for as a candidate was known to have a very quick temper and one and have rebellious children, or at least one rebellious child. Um, I think his children had grown. He might have had still had one child at home. I'm not sure, but I don't think so. I think they'd already gone to college, and so he was. They had said, well, he'd patched all that up, but I said yes, but his reputation as a father is this, and so therefore I would have a problem with him being an elder because this is not, his reputation is this way. I said, I wasn't there during that period of time, but those members that are, that were all state that this is the way he was, and he was known this way. And the preacher who I was talking to says, yeah, that's right. That's the way he was during that time. Yes, people can change. But if he's known to not have ruled his house well, and if one of his children was rebellious and he was a man given to anger, he's already counted out. Um, because he didn't know how to rule his house well. He didn't know how to rule his own house, and he didn't have his children in subjection. And he was also um, not patient, and he didn't fit the in verse 2 where he was of good behavior. So then we turn our attention to Titus chapter 1, beginning in verse 6. Verse 5 tells us that Paul had left Titus in Crete to ordain elders in each city, in each congregation. Now he says, if any be blameless in verse 6, Titus chapter 1, which I thought you had jumped over to, verse 6. Thought I saw you move over there, but then I looked up again. You were back in Timothy. Anyway, if any be blameless, the husband of one wife, having faithful children, not accused of riot or unruly. Notice this, having faithful children, not accused of riot or unruly. It's the children that have to have this good reputation. And McCords agrees, saying the husband of one wife having faithful children not accused of dissipation and of or disobedience. So it's the children have to be faithful and not known for that. Um, whoops, oh, there it is. Uh, Not accused of a dissolute life, that is riots, running um, to party going and just a wastrel, wasting life, or unruly that's disobedient. For the elder, the bishop must be blameless as the steward of God, not self willed, not soon angry, not given to wine, no striker, not given to filthy lucre. That's verse 7. That filthy lucre means ill gotten gain, but a lover of hospitality, a lover of good men, sober, just, holy, temperate, that is self controlled, holding fast the faithful word as he hath been taught, that he may be able to, by sound doctrine, both to exhort and to convince the gainsayers. So when we look at this, is so long as the child is under the control or authority, I should say, of the elder, that child must be faithful, not accused of riot, not accused of being unruly. Um, Alicia, give me a KJV plus on verse 6. Verse 6, please. Now, G410, whatever that is, the faithful there. I'm wondering if that's Pistis version of it. Yep, it's pistos. Trustworthy. That could be believing, faithful, trustful. Um, so it could be believing. Could be simply faithful, as in attending every service. Trustworthy. When you put the two passages together, the picture emerges pretty clear that first off, the elder must be one who is able to control his children, and that those children must not be rebellious, must not be running around wasting things, wasting their life, dissolute, rioting, partying it up, and that they must be faithful while under his authority. When they leave home, even though they're still there and they're still his children, they do become responsible for their own actions, their own belief. If he's taught them well, what do you think is going to happen? I don't think so because I think Timothy was written first. Well, CJ's in the background saying that he's always taken it as they have to have at least some of their children believing, not that all of them do. The only problem that I have with that is it doesn't set a limit. It says having faithful children, which implies that all of their children, because otherwise he's not ruling his house well. Anna says they will remain faithful. Carol says if he's taught them well, they'll stay on the way that way. Right? Train up a child in the way they shall go, when way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. As the proverb writer records. Um, Trying to see if there was an actual date for well, the the aspect. Timothy was written 62, circa, that is around 62, 63 AD. Titus was written in 63 AD. So they're not exactly sure the full date of First Timothy, but it was written roughly prior to Titus. Titus, however, was written in 63, um, from probably from Corinth, whereas Titus or Timothy was written from Macedonia. Uh, with what? Well, the thing is Timothy, within Timothy, what we have is that the elder must have controlled his house, ruled his house well. Um, whether now Here's the problem with the idea that his children have to be believing all the time, all the way until the elder dies, to qualify him. If that be the case, then they have to be living with him all the time, according to First Timothy, because First Timothy says that if his children, he has to rule his own house. Um, Heading back to First Timothy, please. First Timothy 3 tells us that ruling his own family well, having his children is submissive and respective. That's in McCord's. Um, yeah, one that ruleth his own house, having his children in subjection with all gravity. So if we take that one at face value, um, and the King James would read otherwise, one that manageth well his own household. Um, that means that his children then would have to be part of his household all the time, or else the minute that they leave his household, he would then he would cease to be qualified because, well, he can't have them in subjection if they're no longer, part of his household. You see how that argument would play out. N- the No, no, you're misreading the tense of the verb in First Timothy. It is one who rules present tense, or manages, not one that has managed his household. Go to verse 6, please, Alicia. What is it? Oh, excuse me, 4, not 6. Verse 4, please, Alicia. One that ruleth. That isn't a past tense. That is a present tense. Otherwise, would have said one that ruled his household, his house. So this is present tense. One that rules well his own house, having his children. That is again a current type of a situation. Um, so therefore, if this is going to be carried to its minute detail all the way out, then his children would have to be a part of his household, all the way forward. Well, and that's but the problem is, again, with that, okay, say that that child is now no longer under his authority. He's moved out. He's living in another city under in another congregation under another set of elders. Is he responsible for that individual's faithfulness? Even as a father, is he responsible for his child's faithfulness when he has no control over that child? My dad has no control over my faithfulness, now does he? I am my own man, even though I'm still his child. You see my point? The other thing is, again, let's go back to the idea or the KJV plus in Titus chapter 1 and look at verse 6 again, Alicia. Well, the other point is that what about an elder whose child has passed on? Yes, he was believing while he was living, or she was living, but he or she's passed on. Does he cease to be qualified to be an elder because he no longer has a child? Alicia, I said KJV plus on verse 6, please. And I would like, well, once you get to verse 6, the I want the definition of G5043. G5043. Now, Thayers obviously says offspring, children, a child, a male, a child, or a son, metaphorically. The name transferred to the in whatever, though, whatever. Intimate and reciprocal relations were formed by men and by the between men by the whatever. Love, friendship, trust, just as the has whatever parents and children. But go over to Strong's, please. A child as probably product of a child, son or daughter. So there's really not an age limit put on this. What does Mount say? A child, a son or a daughter, descendants, posterity. Now, if it was because we could look at a child as a certain age group, you know, God didn't let just anyone enter into the service of the temple. God didn't let just anyone enter into the service in the military. We've looked at the qualifications that were required, were listed for military service. I think they had to be listed at what was it, 20 and upward. But service in the temple, you had to be 25 and upward, 25 to like 60, I think, wasn't it? I know service in the military was like 60. It was like 50 or 60, I think. Anyway, I think the priesthood was like 60 and the military was like 50 or something like that. But if you were younger than that, you were considered a child. Of course, in the Hebrew, in the Hebrew society, you have your bar mitzvah and your bat mitzvahs. at a certain age. I think child has their bar mitzvah. A male child has theirs at 12, which is when they enter into their they become essentially a young adult. But and I don't remember if girls have theirs at 11 or just when theirs is for their bat mitzvahs. But no, that's Spanish. That's coming of age, and that's usually about 15. Hence the quinceañeras. No, I've explained this before. Bar mitzvahs for males, bat mitzvahs for girls, females. So, but this word here literally, oh, there you got child in virtue of gracious acceptance or a virtue of discipleship. Huh. So, what does my Mount's term this one here in Timothy? I wonder. First Timothy, or in Titus, rather, Titus chapter 1. Oh, that's discipleship. Titus 1:4. No, that's for Titus. Titus 1:4 is for my own son after the common faith. That son is um, discipleship. I wonder what the 1 verse 6 is then. Yeah, I think I think it's actually the children here reference is posterity rather than age related or discipleship. If faithful already determines that it's going to be a disciple, but the point though being is that the child has to be faithful. We all can agree, no matter what side of the fence you fall on in that argument, we can all agree that the elder children must be faithful while living under the control of the elder. Where people disagree is when the child leaves home. Um, and I haven't fully been convinced one way or the other. To be quite plain, or in my stance, I haven't been completely convinced one way or the other as to whether this is to go beyond uh, leaving home, because there is a good argument on both sides of the fence, or both sides of the aisle, if you will, because there's not really a fence. There's an aisle. Um, there's there's a good argument on both sides. The argument that the elder is no longer in control of the child once he leaves home is absolutely true. However, then you have the children of what was his name? Wasn't it Ezekiel that was told to go offer? Yeah, I think it was Ezekiel was told to go offer alcohol to certain. It was either Ezekiel or it was Jeremiah, to the children of one certain man. Started with a J. And they said, "No, we're not going to." It was during the siege of Jerusalem. They said, "No, we're not going. We can't drink because our father told us never to touch this stuff, and we are going to remain true to it." No, it wasn't the sons of Belial. Belial is not a nice term. Oh, Hillel. Hmm. Now I'm going to have to go hunt that one down. You could have done this for me. I gave you enough information. Drink, siege of Jerusalem, offer the sons of. I don't think it's. I think it's. I think it's just Jeremiah because Ezekiel wasn't during the siege. Sons of Racham. Oh, I'm totally wrong. The Rechabites. And the father, the Jonadab, the son of Rechab. See, I got the J right. Just was in the wrong context. Jonadab, the son of Rechab, refused the. Uh, let's see. God said in verse 2, "Go unto the house of the Rechabites, and speak unto them, and bring them into the house of the Lord, into one of the chambers, and give them wine to drink." Then I took Jaatzaniah, the son of Jeremiah, the son of Habatzaniah, and his brethren and all his sons, and the whole house of the Rechabites, and I brought them into the chamber of the sons of Hanan, the sons of Igdaliah, a man of God, which was by the chamber of the princes, of the chamber of Maaseiah, the son of Shalom, keeper of the door, gave him pots of wine, said, "Drink ye wine." They said, "We will not drink no wine, for Jonadab, the son of Rechab, our father, commanded us, saying, Ye shall drink no wine, neither ye nor your sons forever." Now, that is a father who controlled his sons, and they were believing. And he says in verse 8, thus have we obeyed the voice of Jonadab, the son of Rechab, our father, um, in all that he charged us to drink no wine all our days, we, our wives, our sons, nor our daughters, nor to build houses for us to dwell in. Neither have we vineyards, nor field, nor seed, but we have dwelt in tents, and have obeyed and done according to all that Jonadab our father commanded us. The only reason we're in town here is because Nebuchadnezzar. And then God blessed them because of their obedience to Jonadab and all his precepts. So we can see that they Jonadab had faithful children, and not just faithful children in his immediate descendants, but the fact that his grandchildren and great grandchildren, all the way down to Jaatsaniah, or however that his name was pronounced, back in Jeremiah 35. Um, However many generations later, yeah, Jaatsaniah um, was still faithful. So there's that concept of having a faithful child or faithful children so many generations later. Still, it had been passed down from generation to generation to generation, and they were still considered the children of Rechab, the children of Jonadab, the children of Rechab. Or excuse me, the son of Rechab. So if they can do it, we can do it. Amen. Amen. But that's one good argument. The idea, though, that I'm not there. There is the idea as well, though, that God says each man is responsible for his own sin. Well, I am in control of my household only so long as my child is a member of my household. And then there is that. Once I become an elder, I would be responsible for the congregation because I would have been placed in charge of it along with my fellow elders. And that means then that I have a responsibility to oversee all of them, not just my own household. And as long as they are members of my of that congregation, of my flock, I have a responsibility to oversee them. Even if they go astray, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to go out and try to correct them and to bring them back. That's what a shepherd does. Now, if they go and they leave town and they go to a different congregation, are they under my authority any longer? We all would say, no, you don't have that responsibility. That's because they are no longer in that flock. They have moved to another flock. Well, why would that concept be different from my family? Yeah, but I'm still an elder. Yet, Mhm. At what point does my responsibility for bringing them up cease? Sure, it does. When I was a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. Paul says there's a time when you stop being a child. No, you're right. But there is a time when you stop needing to be brought up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Because as a parent, I am supposed to prepare you to go forth as an adult, not as a child. You're not to remain a child for all of your life. Your parents didn't teach you to be a child all your life. Abraham didn't allow Isaac to be a child all of his life. Yeah, and I brought that to your attention. You're not telling me anything new. However, there are Christian children, are there not? We have a tendency to baptize children whenever they approach us to say, "Hey, I'm ready to be a child, to be a Christian." Now, some are as young as, well, 6, 7 years old. Some are as young as, 13 to 15. Some are as young as 60. So there is there are young children, as in those who have not yet reached maturity, who need to be cautioned that they still have to honor their parents just as much as there are elder children, children who have ceased to honor their father and their mother. For example, what Christ said about the children that, the sons or daughters that, or the sons especially, that transgressed the commandment of God by following the tradition of the Pharisees, with Corbin and what have you. When a child thinks, okay, well, now that I'm a Christian, I don't have to obey my parents. Is that right? None of us would say that's right. Every one of us would say, hey, no, you still have to obey your parents. And the same thing for a parent. Okay, now your child may be a Christian. He or she may be a young, maybe an 8-year-old Christian, but you still need to treat your child in the correct manner. Even if he isn't a Christian, you still need to, raise your child up in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord. You still need to not anger your child, not frustrate your child. There's, um, I think that you are missing the point of the bring them up. The bring them up is in direct reference to raising. It is not in reference to, for example, the way that we instruct, reprove, correct, and rebuke an adult person. I don't treat Shea the same way that I treat Alicia and um, Shua. Why is that? He's still my child, but he's an adult, capable of making his own decisions. I have done my part in raising him. Now I correct, I instruct, I rebuke. I treat him as an equal, not as a child. What would happen if I treated O'Shea as if he were a 5-year-old? Right. What would happen if I treated you as a 5-year-old? You'd be insulted, wouldn't you? You see the difference? If I bring you up, though, if we were to look at the word bring them up, the wording there, that's raise them. We are commanded as fathers to raise them in the morality, that's nurture, and the admonition of the Lord. Remember, it's like a moral garden. I think is how we looked at that one. The moral statutes and laws. Well, by the time O'Shea gets, they get to O'Shea's age, they should already be that way. They should already know that. If I've done my job, the the difference would be in the context of how it's used. The difference is in the context of how it's used. Okay, children, obey your parents in the Lord. Are we talking about posterity? Are we talking about an age bracket? Fathers, provoke not your children, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Do you see the difference? Do you see the difference in the context? Hmm. Whereas the first one is not applying to an age group. It's just simply stating children, like as in anyone that would be a child, anyone that would be considered a son or a daughter, a posterity, a descendant of someone else. But since we're dealing with fathers in verse 4, then we're applying the second child or children usage there to someone who is under their instruction, their authority. To his authority to raise up. Fathers, do not stir up your children to wrath. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. Context. That's our. I mean, I'm not. I'm not here to win the argument, CJ. It's coming to the understanding. It's looking at it and saying, "Oh, hey, that makes more sense." And I'm definitely not trying to be insulting or anything. It's actually very good to have these discussions, even if they can't see, even if they can't hear the other side of it. Anna's getting the gist of it, though. I'm sure she is. She's probably over there laughing right now because of that comment. But anyway, I think you're talking about in the reverse. Titus refers to having believing children, whereas Timothy refers to having the household in connection, or in control rather. Um, I think I think that yes, if you do have your house in control, that most generally you will have believing children. Not always. Um, you know, I've got two that are not believing. Uh, Now, generally speaking, Amos is faithful, just not believing. I mean, he attends every service that he can. Tuesday night he wasn't there because, well, he got wrapped up in a tree. Um, they were busy, taking down a tree, and he had this lift that he had rented. He had 3 days for it, and well, he needed to finish this one job, yeah, that day, and it was, yeah, he wasn't done with it because the next day he was supposed to go to another job and use it at that job, and he wasn't done with the one that on Tuesday. So he was trying to wrap that up, and so he didn't make it. But then the lift that they were using uh, had something go wrong with it and started pouring hydraulic fluid all over the place. So, be that as it may, he didn't get that one finished yesterday anyway, so he had to go back today. And the lift that they gave him in his replacement, he couldn't get it to level, and it won't lift if if it doesn't register as level. And so, because one of the outriggers wouldn't level, and so he couldn't use it anyway. So he had to call him up and said, "Hey, I can't get this thing to work. It's not working. Still not working. It won't level." And so they said, "Well, come back and get the other one." So they got a new one today, and he said, "Okay, I'll be up tomorrow to get it." Well, it's too late in the day to go get it. So he had a he had a boo boo happen though, because he had a branch come back and hit him on the shoulder. He's got a pretty good bruise on his shoulder. Yes, you are correct. The general understanding is that it has to be children who are Christians, those who believe, not just faithful, but those who believe. I believe the ASV and the ESV. Well, no, actually, both the KJV and McCord's records it as faithful. So I don't know. Alicia, take us over to the ESV, please, on Titus chapter 1, verse 6. Or, yeah, 6. It says, "And his children are believers and not open to the charge of debauchery or of insubordination." ASV, please. She won't hear you screaming through my mic. "If any man is blameless, the husband of one wife, having children that believe, who are not accused of riot or unruly." So ASV, ESV both say believe. McCord's, which generally follows the ASV and ESV, records it as faithful, not as believing. It still is the same. I mean, because it comes off of pistos, it still means the same thing. It still means believing. Um, so that is absolutely the case. The general idea of it being believing. Believing and yes, belief and faith are interchangeable. Um, this basically me again is to the point of where they are obedient. That obedient faith or that obedient belief. Um, these children have to, whichever they are, um, whether they are obedient, have an obedient belief while under the control of the father, while at home, or if it's going forward, matters not. It still must be an obedient belief. Uh, right. And um, like I said, I haven't been convinced one way or the other. I can see both sides of the argument. That's the problem. I can see both sides. Um, and a father, just like the difference though that I see between uh, an elder whose child has passed on and an elder whose wife has passed on is that an elder whose wife has passed on ceases to be married. An elder whose child has passed on does not cease to be a father. It's a big difference. And so I I don't believe that an elder is disqualified if his children have passed from the life. CJ is very consistent in his believing that an elder is disqualified if his children, like his wife, have passed on. And I'm not going to gainsay him on that. At least he's consistent. Anna says, so say the believed at one time is not guilty of riots or being unruly, but is now unfaithful. Um, if let's put it this way: if the child leaves home, left home believing, but through time and whatever ceases to believe, but still is not unruly or riotous. Um, if you fall into the camp of must have believing children, regardless of whether they're at home, the elder would be disqualified. And if the elder is of that camp, he should step down. I very strenuously believe that if an elder is of that camp prior to his own child, doing that, and then suddenly reverses course, he needs to step down because he is then has become disqualified in matters of doctrine. The same as if he was to be against marriage, divorce, and remarriage, in cases of um, adultery or fornication, I should say, but then refuses to withdraw from a, a child or a person because they are related to him and they have done that. Does that make sense? If an elder is against remarriage in cases of fornication, um, that's wrong. CJ, what am I trying to say there? If an elder is against remarriage, which causes adultery, against a marriage that causes adultery, until a relative who is a Christian commits adultery, and therefore refuses to withdraw from said relative, then that elder is compromised and needs to step down because he's no longer qualified. There are too many people, too many Christians out there um, who are doctrinally sound until it happens to one of their own. We had that happen at a congregation. This one actually, where a lady, a member of the church, um, well, she was married, and then they divorced, both of them citing the other for fornication. As far as I know, both of them remarried, and wasn't long before she divorced again, citing the same issue, fornication, on his part. Last I knew, she was like on her fourth husband. Church withdrew from her, but a good portion of her family, who were Christians, left the congregation because they withdrew. It split the congregation because of that situation. Well, if an elder is against the doctrine, and then suddenly, it's an odd one. Huh, weird. There was a blister on this cucumber. One spit, twice shy, baby. Um, but but if an elder is a flip flopper, as Anna says, that's not doctrinally sound. Hmm. Because you should have at least three. You should have at least three elders. Right. Not that there should ever need to be a tie broken, but well, unless you have a wife hidden away that we don't know about, and a few believing children, I'd say you're really a long way, CJ. And yes, Sister T, I am seeing your comments, and I believe that that elder was wise to step down when his wife died. Anyway, you're welcome, Anna. And I'm sorry I couldn't bring more resolution to it, but those are the conditions, and that is the hot-bodied topic of this particular, or the hot, the hot-bodied controversy of this particular topic. Um, in some ways, I believe that an elder should actually have multiple children because it does teach an elder how to deal with the conflict that arises between um, multiple people in a way that is very much needed in the church because a lot of times the church is like a lot of squabbling children. Well, thank you, Sister T. Well, and that's the general argument is because it says children, just like it says you must have, he ordained elders in every congregation. So either it means multiplicity or it doesn't. I know you were thinking it though, so I was jumping on topic on top of that there, Sister T. Love you. Dragon's egg, cucumber. Unless that was a lemon cuke, but I think it was a dragon egg. Nope, 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 nope. There's yellow in it, so it was a lemon. It was a lemon cuke. I think so. She's running off too. RUNNOFT. I like my dragon eggs cucumbers. I don't think we even grow green ones anymore. We just grow the dragon's egg, the white ones, the dragon's egg, and the lemon cucumbers. The lemon cucumbers I really like for refrigerator pickles. I would probably do those even into a dill pickle, um, and can them in jars because they have a slightly lemony taste to them. Make excellent pickles. The dragon's egg are just great for eating right off the vine. But anyhow, I've said that before and multiple times. Now, um, like I said, I can see both sides, and so I have no problem at the moment. If I was in a congregation with elders, I wouldn't have a problem with an elder whose children were grown and believing. I wouldn't have if they required that of their elders, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I also would not have a problem with being in a congregation where they required their elders to have children or have had children that were believing while they were at home, um, and then weren't as stringent with that requirement after they left home, because I can see arguments on both sides. Do Which one do I think is better? I absolutely, categorically think that the believing children that are beyond home are the better end of the deal, because obviously they're continuing to be children, which means he has taught them well and has reinforced their Christianity, their faith, and is still an active part in their life going forward. And I think that is much needed, even if they are in different cities and under the different authority of a different elder, because this means that even going forward, even before he was an elder, he was still actively a part of their life. So I think, and I'm going to leave it at that. It is my opinion. Do not take that for anything other than my opinion. It is the better of the two, that the children be faithful beyond leaving home. For that reason, it speaks volumes as to the capability of the elder, should the children still be believing beyond home. And so if I had to choose, if somebody were, say, CJ was there, holding me at spaghetti point, um, and forcing me to choose, just shut up, CJ. Yeah. If he was sitting there holding me at spaghetti point, forcing me to choose, I would definitely choose in the interpretation of believing children beyond leaving home. So that would be my tendency. Hopefully, prayerfully, that has helped. Now you know where I stand, which one I tend to go towards, tend to believe towards, and that might help. I don't know. I'm sure they probably know where you stand, and you're not even being held at pizza point. So hopefully you'll join us tomorrow night for lesson 2 in I Surrender All. It is definitely at pizza point. Um, so oh, but pizza point means they're going to withhold pizza from you for the rest of your life. Yep. So hopefully you have been edified by our time together tonight. Thank you for the topic, Anna, and remember to pray for all those who are grief stricken in your personal prayers over the next few weeks, especially. Thank you, Carol, for being here, Teresa, Anna, and Reba. I love you all. And that way, I want you to feel that love, whether we wake tomorrow to serve God here on this earth. I'm still here for you. Or we wake tomorrow to serve God up there where we all long to be. I'll still be there for you. For I'll see you then. God bless in your walk with Him. I love you all. Good night.